Hi everyone, this is Kenneth Muyingo, the Publicity Director for the Ugandan community in the Netherlands. And Hi everyone, this is I'm Kenneth connecting Muyingo with you from my home here, and I'm just taking this opportunity to start this conversation with someone from the Career Advancement Network. But first of all, I just want to bring you greetings from the executive, the Ugandan community in the Netherlands, and everyone within the community. I hope we are all well and that we're having a good and relaxed weekend. This has come as a request out of the interactions that we had through the previous Career Advancement Network meeting. And we decided to continue this conversation with various topics. And the first of its kind is related to the education system of our children here in the Netherlands. So join the conversation online. If you are watching on YouTube, please, you can leave a comment in the comment section on YouTube or on Facebook, and I'll be able to pick up those comments and bring them in. And I have a guest with me. Let me just bring him into studio and then we can start this conversation.
Hi, my name
Hi,
is.
my brother. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank
Please
you.
take a moment to introduce yourself to our viewers and listeners.
Hi, Kenneth. Nice to meet you again. My name is Hakim Waguma, and I'm one of the members of the Career Advancement Network, Netherlands. Wow, it's nice to also see you again. And hopefully, today our talk is going to kind of highlight the situation and some of the questions that the members or the community in the Netherlands have got concerning the education system and what more they need to know. So,
Indeed.
if everyone has got a question concerning their child's education or anything that they would like to know about the education system in the Netherlands, well, I'm the right person and I can help.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Waguma, for making time for this. And we really appreciate all the work and the dedication that you have towards this cause. And if you are watching it from home, and the question is about education or the education system of the Netherlands, or making the best choices for your child's education in the Netherlands. Do you have all the answers that you need to be able to make an informed decision? And if the answer is no, you are in the right place. And maybe you know all the answers, but you know someone who needs to be here and listen to this conversation. So please take a moment and share this link or invite them into this conversation. It's going to be interactive, and we are going to be getting into the details of the education system in the Netherlands. And like I said earlier during the introduction, if you have a question, please type your question where you're watching us from. So if you're watching this on Facebook, you just type your question in the comment section, and we will be able to pick it up here in the studio and be able to answer it. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can do the same thing. You can ask your question, and then your question will be brought into the studio. Maybe we can start this to just do a quick test. If you're watching us, let us know, are you watching us on YouTube or on Facebook? And where in the Netherlands are you located right now? When you watch this, where are you watching us from? We would like to know. So as we wait for this communication to come through, maybe go back to you, Mr. Waguma. The education system of the Netherlands, what can you tell us?
Well, the education system of the Netherlands, I'll still call myself a foreigner who is in the Netherlands. Actually, it's a little bit difficult to encrypt, I would say that, because it has multiple levels. So someone has to really take a lot of time to learn it, to know exactly where to place. If you have a child who is going to school, where should they start? What type of school you need? Because in the Netherlands, we have different profiles of schools. so per se. So you always have to know that, okay, this is the type of profile where I need to place my child. So this type of profiles actually start from as well as low as the kindergarten. So we, what I've seen that with majority of people here tend to think that you'll just go take a child to school and then the education starts from there. But we lack this knowledge. We don't have the background knowledge of knowing what types of vision do these schools have, you know? So you bring a child, for example, you a Muslim, you don't know what types of schools these kinds of profiles have. Okay. Does your child, for example, if you're Christian, maybe you're Catholic, maybe you're Protestant, sometimes because there are also public schools that don't mind about which type of profile or which type of background your child comes from. These are also there, but it's really paramount that you learn that, okay, this is the suitable type of education for my child. And this is always what I tell the parents, that they ought to learn, for the betterment of their kid.
This is good about what you're sharing, because sometimes people think that every school is the same. And from what I'm hearing from what you're sharing is that there's a difference, that maybe every school is good, but maybe it's not the best school for your child. And I think it's important for us to be able to understand that we have different backgrounds and that our profiles are different, and so are our desires and interests as far as our children are concerned. And from what I'm hearing from your conversation is that it's possible to have all these aspects considered in the selection of a child's school here in the Netherlands, right?
Yes, that is right. But also the other aspect is that how well do you know your child? Because
Yeah,
before we start kind of profiling the type of schools that we need, looking at different, because you have to have varieties. Well, Kenneth, as you know, Mr. Mayengo, that we have a lot of schools in the Netherlands, but with all these schools, they have different aspects. So there are
yeah,
sections, for example, there are a lot of, for example, schools that are way progressive. So these types of education we have none, for example, if you come to African countries. There are settings where you see that, okay, this school gives its education in a restaurant form of education, but that is called, it has a certain connotation. For example, it's called in Dutch leerpleinleer, okay,
yeah,
where a lot of students interact with each other. There are multiple subjects that are given at once. Okay,
yeah,
there are also schools like we shall call it free school.
yeah,
In Dutch, it's called Vrijschool.
yeah,
So these also have a different type of curriculum. Okay, we have a centralized curriculum, but then they have certain kind of freedom. They play around, so they have that freedom from the government that they can kind of include when they're teaching. A teacher decides what to teach at a certain type or at a
yeah,
certain moment. So these you all have to know, but you first have to know, well, what abilities has your child got.
indeed.
Okay, yes, we
Yeah,
always like having this type of feeling that our child or our children have got these abilities. They are super abilities.
yeah,
But then with these abilities, it's really important that you know that, okay, but we have to know the limitations. Okay, but these limitations, that is when you start to know that, okay, this is where my child can belong. But
yeah,
then we tend to kind of, it's like sort of a curtain that we have because of the love of our children. We think that
yeah,
our children are always all going to become doctors, for example. Our children are
yeah,
all going to be engineers. Our children are all going to be this. But look at the child himself.
yeah,
Know that, okay, this is the capacity and this is what my child can do. And then you start from there. And then this is actually for the best of the child.
yeah,
We as parents here, even if we have a lot of say, but we are like conduit to our children. You just have to
And
guide slowly by slowly to know that, okay, please, this is the guidance that I'm going to give you so that you make the right choice. Okay, at the end of it all, that they can progress in their education. But then if we don't, and we try to kind of choose without giving our kids these types of choices themselves, then it becomes a little bit difficult.
indeed.
Yeah.
So the conversation what you're talking about right now is how well do you know your child's strength, abilities, weaknesses, potential, all of these things, so that you it's not so much about what you as the parent want, but it's also as much about what the child's abilities and interests are,
Yes.
right? And maybe
Yeah.
someone, I see that we have Tony King watching from The Hague, and we have uh, uh, Dr. Yusuf Katono, marketing professional, also watching from Kampala. And we have Nadia watching from Amsterdam. Thank you so much for tuning in. And just maybe to bring you in on this conversation, how well do you know the education system of the Netherlands? What can you tell us in the comments, please? Because I want us to be in conversation about this. It's not just us talking here in studio. We want to hear from you as well online there, wherever you're watching from. You can tell us in the comment section, what do you know about the education system of the Netherlands? Because we speak about the profile of the school, but also the background of this school. Because, for example, like the example you gave, that if you are a Muslim family, it's important that the child, it may be important to you as a Muslim family that your child gets the right training as far as the Islamic faith is concerned. And that to be considered, I think it's also important in the choice of school that you choose for that child. And I think sometimes these things remain unsaid. And Zakia is also joining us from Amsterdam. So you mentioned how well do you know your child and the profile and the background. Is there something else that you would like to drop in on this so that we can also consider Mr. Waguma?
Choices that we make for our children at school, sometimes they tend to kind of, it's the passion that parents do have, you know. This also causes us to make wrong choices. I hear a lot of parents that have got a lot of, I'm talking of a lot of migrant parents that have a lot of, it's, well, the education system, it's not, even though it's one of the best education systems in the world, it's still not perfect.
Yeah.
Yes, it has its also, the negative side. You get it? So, but when someone comes in and you say, okay, well, the choices that the parents makes without looking at the perspective of a child, when we come here, most of the time, for example, you bring a child from Uganda or from the African countries, and then you hear a parent say that, well, after a couple of weeks or couple of like 1 2 years, we have been referenced or we have been told that our child is supposed to go to special education. This is really kind of now an issue which is way broad, but I go back to the point of how well you know child, because our children tend to, sometimes, not all of them, they are sometimes misdiagnosed. That is also true in this education system. Also, there is bias in this education system. There is a lot of actually points that we have to look at, and we say, okay, now, one being that when a child is being referenced to a certain type of education system, why is it so? Okay, sometimes when people bring in, or like when the professionals bring in this psychological or psychology terminologies as dyslexia, dyscalculia, this dysgraphia, you know, like language process disorder. These are all types of different disorders that our children tend to have, but they are not diagnosed in Uganda or in Africa. Okay, when we come here, it becomes a different scenario. when a child goes to class, they maybe don't know how to read, maybe they cannot kind of translate words into letters. But then when they are referred to a certain education system, because these are the choices that I mean, you know, you don't know your child well. So when a professional comes in and tells you, you know what, I think this is the right structure, sometimes we tend to be negative about it. But if you had known it initially, I think it would have been a little bit easier for the parent to make the right choice. And when a professional comes in and tells you, you know what, this is the situation, I have taken bias out of the equation here. Okay. Because I want the parents in the Netherlands to learn that, okay, let us first know that there is a way we can help our children before even with, other profession come in. And, because it's better to support your child at school while knowing exactly the the what they can do and what they can't do.
Indeed, I think this is a very difficult conversation because we speak about now an issue that is very close to home, because for most parents, when they're talking about their child, every parent sees their child as, if for lack of a better word, perfect. They are the
Yeah.
smartest child they know, they are the most intelligent, but then the realities of the situation may be different. And I like what you mentioned here about misdiagnosis, that sometimes you may get into a situation that the choice of the school that you want for your child may not be the correct one.
Yes.
And sometimes it may be that the one that you want is actually not the best one for the child. And so in looking at the choices that we make, um, yeah, you mentioned a lot of things in here as far as this. And then I'm thinking, what is the best way for a parent out there to be able to go about this?
What I would say, I think the best way would be that before you start your child, because look, I'm talking about, I'm just going to break into sections here. I'll talk in a perspective where a child is still in a primary, yeah, in a primary level. But um, here a lot of um, you know, well, a lot of help is given by the municipality. Okay, so a municipality can pay for a lot of things. So we have what we call, for example, like when a child, when, for example, when a parent disagrees about the abilities of a child, the municipality where we all live, they can pay for the IQ test. You as a parent, you can also decide that, okay, I'm against what the advice that for example, the profession has given, but is it possible that I can go for an IQ test to make sure that whatever you're saying is relatively the same as what another professional said? So it's like having another extra eye in a
Yeah,
different setting, but
seeking a second opinion in
yes,
a way.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay, but when we talk about this, it's always like a push and pull for the parent. You know, we always, when a child is diagnosed, we always want to have something on paper to back
yeah,
it up. So when I for example, as a teacher, go into class and I assess your child and say, okay, well, I think this is not the right education for your child. You need to go to a special education. Okay, so I have to back it up with findings. This is what I've seen. Your child cannot read. Your child is a TOS. TOS means yeah, ontwikkelingsstoornis, or like the language process order, when a child cannot, or when a person, because this is not only a child but also to old people. There are people who cannot easily process spoken language. Okay, the wordings are kind of difficult to bring in, the vocabulary is difficult. It's like you basically hear nothing. When a person speaks, yes, they can speak, but not in a perfect way. Okay,
yeah.
Yes, joining the word order, the lexical part, the phonemic part of the language are totally difficult. But you have to agree that okay, what is the problem with my child? Because that is where the conversation has to start when you go to the to a professional in a school, to a child. Look, give yourself freedom to learn, because by learning you know better. But when you say, well, this is my opinion and I'm going to stick to only my opinion, and no one else is going to talk about it, or no one else is going to disagree with me, then that is a wrong choice. And it's like it's also detrimental to a child.
Indeed. It's yeah, the issue that you mentioned, as far as being able to communicate, I think this is where the logopedy recommendations come in, that sometimes the teachers, or the people that are evaluating the child, they recommend that they have to go through this program of being able to learn how to speak and to pronounce words correctly.
Yes. That so the but the well, the toss is kind of, it can help when you go to a logopedy, but then the reference has to be mostly when uh, you are referred to that particular setting. They tell you, okay, I don't think that your child is suitable for the education. Please just go further. It's important that your child learns what they're supposed to speak. Communication in class is important, because with these types of students or kids, they cannot easily even communicate with the teacher as well as also with their classmates, and it's difficult to them. They don't know what to do, so they are stuck in between not knowing what to say and constructing the words. So it's really like, for them a taboo. So when we as a parent, or when I as a parent come in and say, well, you know what, this is what I prefer for my child, it's like you setting your child to fail before even they start their education. And that is really not good. you know we parents always see our children as perfect, but that is, I think, the goal of every parent. Not actually here only in the Netherlands, but I think in the whole world. you know we don't just want to hear what the truth about our parents. Now, we as immigrants, parents tend to think, well, the situation is that, when I say what I've known about my child, or maybe my child started the education in Africa, they have this situation that they have been learning good. They have been doing, for example, like when a child comes in with a PCB, for example, like a background, you say, well, my child was a PCB student. Okay, they had learned something, like they were in the HSC, and this is what they'd done.
Yeah,
And when they come here, they are given a different type of, you know education setting, and you go berserk. Okay,
indeed.
that can actually happen, but then without taking away the point of bias. But it has to start with a step, knowing the education system, because I always tell parents that there is always a solution to everything.
Yeah,
There is always a solution in the education system.
indeed.
But
And
yes,
go for it. Continue. There's always a solution to every problem. Yeah.
yes, there is, because you can decide when you want a certain school. um you can say, okay, well, for example, your child has been referenced to a lower education, like that is the VMBO. Okay, because we have the spatial on device, we have the praktijk on device, that is the spatial education. We have we have the lower, middelbaar school, that is the voorbereiding middelbaar beroepsonderwijs system, that is
Yeah.
the VMBO.
Yeah.
So know exactly that maybe your child, that is when they reach group 8. Okay, and they
Indeed.
are done with their CETO exams, because that CETO is important. But parents tend to forget, for example, like when a child is comes here when they're young, for example, like when they start their education from group 2 or group 3. Group 3 is when all these students tend to start their CETO.
Yeah.
So the child is assessed starting from group 3 up to group 8. So that is how many years of difference? Almost 5 years.
Yeah.
When when a school or different teachers assess this child to know that okay, the child is suitable for this type of education.
Yeah.
You see, so when the final assessment is given, or what we call advice, and it turns
Yeah.
in a different way, I always say, do you know how to actually equate? Do you know how to translate those points that you see on your child's report? They give every after a period or two periods, and they tell you, okay, these are his CITO
Yeah.
scores. You know, so this is important. This is where I say that students have to invest a lot in their child education. Know
Indeed.
that without them getting involved in these types of processes, teachers tend to choose for them. So you just come and you say, well, because it's education, let my child go on. So
Yeah.
who is benefiting here? Is it the child? Is it you? Or is it the school? So a child, yeah, I don't say that professionals aren't biased. They tend to be
Yeah.
biased too. But then
Indeed.
you, as a parent, you're a protector of your child, but you have to
Yeah.
protect them in the right way.
Indeed.
Yes.
Two things. You say you hint on something very crucial here, I think, because you reminded me of something. I was having a conversation with one of my Indian friends,
Yeah.
and he was telling me uh, in most Indian households, as a child, you are either a doctor, a lawyer,
Yeah.
an engineer, or you are a failure.
Yes.
Yeah? And for them, the parents insist that the child is either a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Because anything else, if you choose any other career path, you are regarded as a failure. But that's actually not the truth, because there is something for everyone out there. And if you insist that your child should be a doctor when they don't have uh, even the interest in it, because I believe that as human beings we come complete, that sometimes what we do is with the education system is that we bring out what is already inside so that we can be able to use that. But I'm thinking of a situation that a Ugandan parent has a child and they want this child to go in a certain direction to study, maybe towards becoming a doctor. And the advice that is being given is that they should go in a certain direction, which is otherwise of being a doctor. And maybe let me just bring the question as it is. Is there situations that children can be discriminated against in this system because that they are not from the Netherlands originally, and they're trying to get into certain uh, academic paths, and because of the fact that they are from Uganda, that they get discriminated against?
Um, well, I'm going to answer that question in I would say it won't be in a vague way, but I would say that yes, that is probably the situation. It's there indirectly because when you come in here, the way a discrimination kind of is arises or we discriminated against it is with language. So when you come into the Netherlands, so we are children, even if you're not like an immigrant, but then your parents, okay? Because um, when you go to a school, we tend to have these forms that we fill.
Yeah,
Now, these forms that we do fill tend to have a lot of information. Where your parents are born or where they come from, what language you speak at home, these all types of different points, even the last name that you have on
yeah,
paper.
yeah,
So these all carry a lot of weight indirectly.
yeah,
So when someone comes in and you go to a school and they tell you, okay, they ask you which language to use at home, or well, when they hear my last name as Waguma,
mm,
they will know immediately that well, I don't have a Dutch name.
yeah,
Understand? Passport doesn't matter in this case. But I will
yeah,
just say, well, you are not Dutch. So it means that you Dutch is the second language. It's not the
yeah,
first language. So it doesn't matter which section you fall into, but they will immediately just tell you, okay, maybe you cannot be a doctor here
yeah,
because they would say, yo, you'll not understand the. That is why actually most of the students, when they come in, also like, well, yeah, begrijp lezen. Reading to understand is very difficult.
yeah,
Yeah, this laser, technical reading, it's very difficult. You cannot, because you cannot perfect the language, not knowing that every child, this is what I see in our system here. Every child is built differently. I
yeah,
speak, I speak 9 languages fluently,
yeah,
but that doesn't mean that when I speak them, okay, just because I don't pronounce the h as you pronounce it, makes
yeah,
me like not to, you know, articulate myself in the right way.
indeed.
You understand? So these are all problematic, but they start with the language.
Yeah,
They start with the language. So, and when you go back home and you sit down and you will kind of beat yourself up and you say, well, um, you couldn't. I think the right procedure would be that we have to invest a lot more in our children's
yeah,
education.
indeed.
Dutch parents also have certain kind of, shortcomings. Maybe they say, well, I would like my child to reach this height.
Yeah,
Okay, then they invest a lot more. Yeah, the
yeah,
education is free here in the
indeed.
Netherlands,
Yeah,
but then if it is free to all people or to all up to a certain stage, but then these Dutch parents tend to invest a lot more through extra lessons, that as we call them bilas.
yeah,
Invest in your child to make sure that they are also at the same level as also the Dutch students.
indeed.
But how many parents of a migrant background do this?
Yeah,
There are not a lot. And that is where the problem arises. Okay? Because we
mm,
also need to see the effort that is being put in by these parents, okay, for the
yeah,
betterment of their children. But then if we don't, or if we don't know, we just kind of beat ourselves up and you say, well, my child is very clever, but the Dutch education is all biased and it's all discriminative and this and this. Well, I think it's just merely sometimes whining.
yeah,
Do more, and you see that, okay, I've followed all the steps to help my
yeah,
child. That
indeed.
is where we have to start from.
Indeed.
Yes.
This is good. I was interacting with Dr. Joachim Chukwuemeka. I'll mention his name.
Yeah.
He's one of the people we work with as the leadership of the community. He's
Yes.
a physician oncologist. And part of the discussion that we got into is the challenge with most people is because we start off disadvantaged already,
Yeah.
in the sense that uh, he mentioned that most of the people who are in the medical field in this country are third or fourth generation,
Yes.
something like that. That it's either one of their parents was a doctor or one of their brothers' parents, like very close. That it's running in the family, and to the extent that these children who end up being selected for specializations eventually in the medical field, that when they were on holiday, they were doing internships in the hospital.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to be able to do that
Yes.
because of their parents. And us as migrants, you come in and basically you're doing a cleaning job
Yes.
and you want your child to be a doctor. You are already disadvantaged in the sense that the child may have even the potential, but they don't have the exposure as far as this is concerned. And I
Absolutely.
like what you mentioned, that it's important for the child to be intentional in getting, I mean, the parents to invest in extra training. If you realize that your child has the potential to do something that you know they are capable of, and maybe you were not able to do it yourself as a parent, but you can give it as a gift to your child to make sure that they are set up in the right way for success. And also, just talking about extra training, there's opportunities for mentorship within the community. And let me just put this right here, because sometimes the problem is that we don't have enough examples of people who look like us who have succeeded. And when we are trying to find examples of success, everyone we see who is successful does not look like us. And then you automatically feel like, no, this is not for my child. It's not worth it. But the career advancement network, because this is one thing that when it was introduced, it fired me up because I realized that this is one of the pieces that we are missing within the community. Because we have an opportunity to learn from our own people, to get guidance from people who have succeeded in this system, in this country, and
Um,
they are making themselves available to help the future generation through mentorship and support. So when you are watching this as a parent, I just want to put this out there and encourage you to reach out to the Career Advancement Network. If there is a question that you have, please, there's no wrong questions. Just reach out and ask your question. In fact, send me some questions in the comments that you would like Mr. Hakim Waguma to answer for us. I like to call him Musomesa.
well,
Yes,
that
please.
that is my nickname. Sometimes I forget that it's merely a title that is being given to a lot of people by me. I
Yeah,
tend to forget that I have a name, you
yeah,
know, and then almost everyone who I know calls me Musomesa. That is why it's the first thing that I'll think of when I call myself. But it's all right.
yeah.
I'll give something that I normally don't share
Yes, please.
when it comes to the struggles in the Netherlands.
Yes, please.
Education, teaching was my calling, and I love teaching. I love standing in classes. I love helping young youth people to, further their education, to see them grow. But when I was here, I went back to school. Well, I'm old, but I'm not really so old. But when I went back to school, not because I did not have education in the past, I had it, but then I had to come and start from scratch. Okay.
Yeah,
I did not have, so what we call rice telling. I did not have any exceptions to sit all papers when I went back to university. I had to get into the whole system to start afresh. But luckily, the education 4 years, I did it in 1.5 years. It's because that I wanted it. So this type of calling or this type of information goes to people who think that they're failed or they don't want to go back to, you know, yes, I understand. But then why do you beat up yourself and think that, well, I cannot make it or I cannot go further? There are people who have passed through a lot of hell to make sure that they reach where they are. But then you have to have that urge, you have to have that goal. Okay. After going for my education, I ended up having a lot of issues. For me to get my job, I had to apply almost 150 times.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah, actually, it's even in all the national newspapers in the Netherlands.
150 times.
Yes, but then
How
there
did
was
you not
no,
give up?
sorry,
How did you not give up?
I did not give up because I knew that there are not a lot of foreign teachers. There are few immigrant teachers in the Netherlands. But then why wouldn't I? Why
Yeah,
wouldn't I?
indeed.
you know because it's what I wanted to
Yeah,
feel that, okay, there is someone who at least go to these immigrant communities and talk about, because I think I want to be that example to a lot of to a lot of parents, to a lot of kids, to know that, okay, maybe I can also be a teacher,
yeah,
because I understand that it's not easy,
yeah,
but at least you try to kind of do. I kept on sending in my CVs, I kept on sending them and again, and I was being turned down without any explanation.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah, but eventually I'm where I am because I tried my level best. But right now, it's through these experiences that I come back to this community through the Career Advancement Network to share all this, tell you, okay, this is what we can do. We come together in the community and we see that how can we further ourselves? How can we help our kids to make
indeed.
sure that, they also go further other than just sitting and, not do anything.
Yeah, this is a good one. And I like what you talk about because most people out there, I think fear keeps them stuck in the place they don't want to be.
Yeah,
And what you share, maybe if there's a parent who is watching out there and they really want something for their child,
yeah.
but they feel like themselves as a parent, the system intimidates them and it just leaves them in a place of fear or just being paralyzed. What can you share with them from your experience? How did
S-
you overcome this fear?
Sorry, the fear of doing what? Can you repeat the question?
Yes, I mean, the fear itself of just the system itself, the fact that it's overwhelming and
Yes.
that they just don't know where to start or what to do.
Look, there is always the first step. It's always the first step that is very difficult. Look, the education system in the Netherlands is one of the systems that really need a lot of people.
Yeah,
I would urge anyone who has an education background to go back to school to get knowledge so that they
yeah,
can come in this, profession. It's
yeah,
available. We lack teachers, we lack educators
yeah,
because the education system entails a lot. Because we do a lot. I'm not merely a teacher. I play a lot of different roles in this
indeed.
education system. I'm a mentor. I do a lot. I coordinate. You look at a perspective of a child in a psychological setting as well as in class setting.
Yeah,
Trying to see, but you just have to take that first step.
indeed.
It's always difficult.
It's always difficult. Yeah.
Yes.
I like that you say this, and just we're going to go back to the education system of the children, but I just wanted to highlight this comment from Tony. He said,
Yes.
I was surprised that they had to give him an IQ test before starting the Dutch language course. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Because maybe someone is watching here and they would like to actually get into the education system as a teacher, but just the fact that they're going to be evaluated on their IQ, that would scare them. Can you tell us about that?
Why are you afraid of your IQ in the first place? Don't be scared of your IQ because we always know, why would you fear yourself?
Yeah,
So, for me as a person, I would urge someone, any person who would want to go in and you know that this is where my abilities lie, go for it.
yeah,
Take the IQ test because the
indeed.
IQ, yeah, the IQ test says something about you that okay, this is where what your abilities are, and sometimes you'll even be surprised.
Yeah,
It may be that the reason as to why you asked to go for an IQ test, they wanted to see to assess how you to which at which level are your abilities. Maybe you
indeed.
were super intelligent. That is what we call in education setting, in education profession, that gifted person.
Yeah,
Maybe you're a gifted person. By the way, sometimes we tend to forget that also gifted students tend to go into into an education, a special education setting.
yeah,
Yes. So maybe you are gifted. So if I'm to ask or if I'm to answer Tony's question, maybe Tony, you can as well highlight us. Is there a reason as to why you were told to take an IQ test? Was it
indeed.
because it's a merely Dutch question, or maybe the possibilities are that you did not complete um your education and then you are asking for an exception in paper, because that is also possible. You don't want to finish all the papers, but then the education ministry doubts whether what you're saying is true, so they take you for an IQ test to see, to judge your capacity as a person who is, because to declare you incompetent, they have to first take you for an IQ test. So
Indeed.
the IQ test is the last phase of the in education sector where they made kind of declare you incapable of doing anything considering to thinking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, this is good. I going back to something that you said earlier about seeking a second opinion,
Yeah.
because with an evaluation, it's possible that, like what we are talking about right now, that someone is actually a genius or special
A
uh,
gifted
the
student
gifted
or
one, yeah,
a gifted
they're a
person.
gifted student,
Yes,
a gifted student,
yes.
but because they don't tick the boxes of the setting that they have been put
Hmm.
in this evaluation, at what point do they determine and they say, yeah, this is not gifted but special needs student?
When a gifted student is assessed, you as a parent, you see your child. This is why I always start with the question, how well do you know your child?
Yeah,
Yes, let's put our feelings aside and then let's focus on only how well we know our children now. So
yeah,
when a spacious student, there are certain kind of signals.
yeah,
A child is constantly, when they come home, they are always done. They are way further than the normal child
yeah,
in their education, like in their growth, education growth. So
yeah,
what happens is that you have to see all these signals as a parent at home. And
yeah,
okay, my child is always further. My child is always complaining that whatever is being given at school, it's way very simple, and they no
yeah,
longer want to go to school. These are
yeah,
all signals. When a child is at home, knows that okay, well, the teacher complains a lot as to why I'm so fast, but the
yeah,
things or the tasks that I'm being given are less challenging.
yeah,
So my abilities, I can do more. Then at home, this is why I always tell also parents that have got kids. I will say this in Uganda. We have
yeah,
this saying that we used to call ourselves omwana oyo musiru, yalinga musiru mu kibiina.
yeah,
Oba yalinga mugezi, like we say, oh, yalinga mugezi, but you know this, obugezi bwe bwabeeranga ng'amala mangu mu kibiina n'atuula nga talina kyasoma. These
yeah,
are types of signals where you can easily know that the child is really gifted,
yeah,
but because they lack that extra care.
yeah. Indeed. And I like that you mentioned this, that some of the tips for the parents to realize that their children are gifted. If you what you mentioned, that they are ahead of others in the sense that what the teachers are teaching them, they feel like, I already know this, that their classmates are struggling to understand it, but they've already got it. And that even with things like what the child is saying at home, that I feel like I don't want to even to go to school because I'm not learning anything new there. Is there something else that you can give us as a practical uh, guide or insight into a parent who is watching and they're wondering what's happening to this child of mine? Is it that they're just too distracted? They can't sit down to do the homework? What is happening?
Now, I always emphasize parents to invest a lot, but here I mean that when a child is too distracted, because this can also happen to gifted students, or this can also happen to your gifted child, as well as a child when, because I see sometimes, sorry, this, I think this is because I'm talking in a teacher's perspective or an educator's perspective. That when I
Yeah,
go to these settings where we're a lot of people in a community and I see kids, I tend to assess them differently. And I look at them and I say, oh, well, this child, if he's put in the right structure, like, okay, when a parent gets this child, it's better you have to focus them. So you to focus them in a, in a kind of in a minimal setting,
yeah,
buy things like Lego.
yeah,
Okay. Because this Lego, the reason as to why, if you go to a Dutch household,
yeah,
you'll find that majority of Dutch households have got Lego in their houses. But why do you think Lego is there? It's because Lego helps a child to concentrate. A child who has a wandering mind tends to do a lot of things.
yeah,
Okay, forgetfulness, running from this. It's not done fully. It's not complete, and they rush to another task. That child means that they lack concentration. Introduce them to Lego plays. The child is playing as well as he concentrates on one task, and they're
yeah.
moving on. But
Indeed.
if you don't, then it becomes difficult to assess how well can this child concentrate. When that child is being sent to a school, me as an educator, what I'm going to point out is this child doesn't belong to the education. They need to
yeah,
go to a special school, and then this, the kind of the back and forth communication starts. No, my child is not for a special school,
yeah,
because you as a parent hasn't really invested a lot
yeah,
in this child. Start
yeah,
with very simple tasks. Buy
yeah,
Lego. These
yeah,
Legos you can get them from different, play stores here in the
yeah,
Netherlands, for example. See that a child concentrates for like 30 to an hour time
yeah,
period from the beginning up to the end. Go further. Know that each and every day, at least a child can concentrate for 1 hour without doing anything.
yeah,
Okay, they built that Lego because Lego gives maximum concentration to a child, even to an old person. It's the same
indeed.
because
Yeah,
it builds your mind. We have blocks in our minds, that in our brain, sorry, that tend to be destructive or tend to be broken. But then if you
yeah.
start with Lego, brick by brick, building this helps you to concentrate, bring back all these blocks,
You
and
learn
they
how to
attach
focus.
together. You learn how to focus.
Yeah,
Yes.
indeed. Wow, this is good. Thank you so much. And there's a question from Yvette. She asks, do you have guidance for a parent who often takes their child to the library but does not know how best to navigate the library or even to find the right reading materials for the child?
For a child who goes to the library, well, that is nice, because rarely do I see parents, kind of taking their children to, mostly I'm talking in the perspective of my grandparents. But if a
Yeah,
child goes to a library, what I would say is that it's better you go with your child. We have two different types of books, or three. Every book in the Dutch library has got a label on the side of a book. So that label, it starts with AVI. So it's AVIMOE. So AVI means where your level of a child of reading is.
yeah,
M means the child has reached a middle level, or the child is reaching at the end. So that is the E.
yeah,
So there is AVI. So it's, sorry, I just don't want to use the Dutch vocab, but it's AVI one,
yeah,
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then when it reaches 8, when a child becomes a proficient reader, now it becomes that he can read all the vocabulary is a lot improved, and then they can really focus on, the technical language itself.
yeah,
But you have to monitor these languages according to those levels. So for example, we focus mostly on these children on reading starting with AVI 1, that is starting group 1, sorry, group 2 to 3. So that is the between the two groups, 2
yeah,
and 3. So that is where they start the reading. So how long do your child, or how much time does your child spend on reading, for example?
yeah,
Okay, so when a child is reading at home, that is better, but then focus also on him or her reading at least 20 minutes of a day only on reading. If
yeah,
maybe if a parent is also a good reader, it does not matter whether it's English
yeah,
or Dutch,
indeed.
but it has to be reading. Let
Yeah,
it be that the parent focuses, helps that child to read. With
indeed.
only the help of reading helps a child to be comfortable hearing these sounds, because most parents can read English. Start with English. Then with Dutch, at least I would prefer, I always say that majority, all immigrants are dyslexic. I say it in a funny way, because at least we tend to have a lot of difficulty in reading when we
Yeah,
start. So I would say that pick a book, because there are books which are special for dyslexic students. Hear
yeah,
the sound. Let that child hear the sounds of these words as
yeah,
they read along and they read along. All these books are in the library, and this will help a lot this kid to improve on their, reading skills. Yes.
Indeed. Indeed. Thank you for sharing this. And just to add something to this, that sometimes, and I like that you hinted on it, is as the parents, we have to be able to lead our children by example.
Yes.
That when you see most of us, the culture from which we come from, I know most of the people watching this are from Uganda. Reading is not in our culture.
No, it's
People
not.
read to pass exams.
Absolutely.
People
Yes.
find reading boring. Even people who can read don't read. You find that a parent is spending 6 hours in front of their mobile phone and they want their child to sit down and read a book for 30 minutes. But if you ask the parent, when did you last hold a book in front of your child and your child saw you reading? For most parents, it may be never.
Yes,
And
but it's reading, Mr. Muyengo, reading is a culture.
exactly.
Reading is a
And when we
culture
look
that,
at most people here, the Dutch, for example, they have it in their culture that
yes,
they are readers, even as the parents. And
yeah,
so for the children, it almost comes automatically
yes.
because
Because,
that's what they see their parents doing.
yeah, look, what I do normally, I'm talking in my household, it's
Yeah,
very important for your child to see you hold a book, even if you don't do anything.
yeah,
See you hold a
exactly.
book. That,
Yeah,
okay, because this is a culture you're building at home, okay? Because we are not readers. Well, myself, I'm a reader because I read a lot. Well,
yeah,
that, yeah, I'll have to put that aside. But when you open a book and your child sees you every day, open this book and read it, they
yeah.
will have this also in their mind that, okay, this is why reading is important because my father or my mother reads every day. Even if you open it and you tell
And you
him, you know
need,
what? Yes, because please let us sit here for 20 minutes. Let us
yeah,
read together. Just
yeah,
close. But Mr. Muyingo, right now it's not only our parents, sorry, it's not only we as immigrants, but this is also a taboo for also the Dutch people.
yeah,
Dutch kids of recent don't really like reading because it's boring, but it's a culture.
yeah,
Okay, so we are starting to build it step by step.
indeed.
Yes.
And there's a follow-up question from Yvette. She says, "Thank you, Hakim. With the AVI, how can you know where your child's level, where your child is level-wise, so that you can pick the right books? And can we get this information from school?"
Absolutely. So at school, starting from the lower levels, we have what that is what I always tell parents, that we as educators in the Netherlands, we tend to detail almost, as Kenneth, Mr. Miengo, that we write a lot, sometimes unnecessarily. So
Yeah,
we tend to have all this information. So when you go to a school of a child, ask them what level of your child is reading
yeah,
wise. They will immediately tell you that now look for books for AVI or AVI 1 or AVI 5. But these move according to the level of your child. But sometimes there is a child who is in group 8 or who is in a secondary school group 2, but their reading levels are of group 5.
yeah,
That is there. But then ask the teacher. They will tell you. Ask a remedial teacher. There are dyslexia coaches in every school in the Netherlands. This can help you to tell you that, okay, this is what your child can learn.
yeah,
Okay, so there are parents that know already that their children have got, or their kids have got dyslexia. There is a software. It's called your
yeah,
layer as the word itself. It helps when you put in your layer, it will direct you to all libraries in the Netherlands online, where you can find a lot of multiple books with all levels, where a child can also hear the sounds, even in English. So it's read along
yeah.
directly from the library.
Indeed. Thank you so much. And Molin Care says, very good to know about the book levels and the categories in the library. Reading opens up a whole new world to a child. And it's very well said. Thank you so
Rightly
much,
said.
Nolan Cares. Very well said. And going back to the issue of the Legos, uh, Painento Kavuma says, talking about signals, I have a child who takes a lot of interest in Lego. Exactly, that he develops his own projects sometimes from Legos that he plays with, plus watching technical videos on YouTube. And
Yeah,
I think this is really good.
I think it's added information. It's like he's trying to kind of uh, add extra weight to the point that I'm making, that when you look at the when a child, I think with what Kavuma is saying is that when you look at a child who is playing with Legos, so the Legos focuses, and there's a lot of multiple things that you can do with Lego. Okay,
Yeah,
so instead of a child focusing on unwanted things, because remember that our children spend long time in front of these screens, okay, but they tend to learn nothing.
yeah,
They tend to learn nothing.
yeah,
But then the focus has to be that, okay, when a child sits in the front of the TV, what are they focusing on? Is it
yeah,
the right way? So if it is with Lego, for me, my child can sit 24/7 on his TV and watch whatever they want, because they are trying to learn something out of what they're building, and then they're building their own thing. So it's this is creativity. And that
indeed.
is what we always need from our kids.
Awesome. And Mr. Kavuma asks a follow-up question on this. He says, if I'm not in the technical setup of the Netherlands, how best should I let my child father his interest in the technical field, for example?
Look, it's always support. It starts with the support of your child. It starts with the knowledge. Sit with your child, know them, their interests. Because look, this is a modern world. It's no longer that our parents tend to side or tend to choose for us.
Yeah,
Hear what your child says about him, and then it will give you a right procedure on how you're going to help. It's also technical, knowing
indeed.
how your brains of your child work. Okay, but by not knowing, then it creates this kind of uncharted waters. Should
Yeah,
I decide? So if I'm a teacher, for example, it's up to my child to decide whether they like to be a teacher. Well, one of my children tends to say, well, I like your profession, because they've they find it decent, they find it
yeah,
cool. For me, I do it. Teaching is a calling. I like
yeah,
standing in front of a class and give all this. It's not simple. Not every
yeah,
person does it. So if you go into it only to earn, you will earn a lot of money. Yes,
yeah,
but the problem is that you'll just run away the way you study when you the way you entered it. So it's
indeed.
better that you know that, well, this is the right place that I'm in. Okay,
Indeed.
so when anyone, and this is only information that I'll give to people. If anyone would like to enter to start a career in education in the Netherlands, please feel free to contact me. Okay, via the career advancement network. Okay, because this career advancement network will help. I think that a lot of teachers, a lot of educators, a lot of psychologists, a lot of all, because look, the education sector is broad. They are needed in the Netherlands. Okay,
Yeah,
probably you'll be like me when I insisted and insisted and insisted until I got what I wanted. Otherwise, after the second application, I think I would have given up. But I did not. So I think it's possible for everyone to reach the heights that I achieved.
indeed. Awesome. This is good. And somebody asks to please type the library link you mentioned in the comments. Maybe if you could say it again, I'll be able to type
It's
it here in the
called
comments.
your the way you hear the word. So you say your layer. So um m- uh, if I get it correctly, Yvette, your child has got a library card. So your library card has got access to all libraries in the Netherlands, all
Yeah,
libraries. So you type in your library number. So there is what, but then type in only your layer. It
yeah.
has a lot
So
of
your
information.
layer is YOLE.
Yes, Y
YO.
O L E Y O,
All right.
Yoleo. So that helps a child who has got difficulty in reading. Oh well, you want your child to read along. This also gives a lot of, you know, help.
Indeed, this is good. And also, there's a comment from Khan about to Mr. Kavuma that there's also mentors working in engineering and technology. If you would like, you can get some more information on www.khan256.nl.
Yes.
And this is basically what we're talking about, because sometimes there's not enough examples of people like us for our children to follow. And it is, yes, the teacher who's standing in front of them may not look like them, but if they can have someone that they can look up to for a mentor or sort of a guide to help them on this journey, to know that the place they're going to, maybe the parent was not able to get there because of one reason or another, or they started late, but that it's still possible, because sometimes all that's all it takes for a child to know that they're not out of their mind to want to be a doctor in the Netherlands, that it has been done before from Uganda, that you can actually, if that's what you want to do, that you can actually be an engineer in this country and do the things that you want to do. And this is to the parents. If you feel like maybe for you that it's late, give this as a gift to your children. We have made ourselves available to do the bit that we can to make sure that the journey that they have to travel from where they are towards success is is eased up, that it's the stress is lessened, the burden is lightened, because we wished that we had this when we started, and because we didn't, it was a lot harder. But it does not have to be hard. There's no point in us trying to reinvent the wheel again. So the help is available within the community. So let's make use of that. And maybe you can say something as I go back into the comment section, Musomesa.
Um, well, that is, well, I have to only add on what you're saying that, well, when you look at people here, they're here to highlight that it's also possible. It's not simple, but it's possible.
Yeah,
Okay. With a lot of patience. Sometimes we aren't patient, we as human beings. But at least now there are people who have already passed through all what you think you may be passing through. But then the guidance is there, the contacts are there. Through Khan, you can easily just know that, okay, if I'm into engineering, it's possible. If I'm into this type, because there has to be a passion where every person lies. I have my
indeed.
own passion. There are people who are software engineers. There are people who are in taxation. There are people who are into different varieties of work, of network, who already know that, okay, in this section, this is what you can do. Okay.
Indeed.
Yes, we are here not only as to, because sometimes it's people tend to think that, well, um, these people are here to just show their achievements, but it's not merely only what we've achieved. It's because we are trying to highlight that it's possible in here. Yes.
Indeed. Awesome. Thank you so much. And there's another question from Samuel Sarumbugu. He says, how do I know that my child is in the best school? I always thought that every school in the Netherlands had the same level, but recently I had a parent saying that her child was in a bad school. Can you say something about that?
Um, well, her child was in a bad school. This is what I started with Samuel, that you always, before you start your child's school, you have to know there are supposed to be points that you have to tick off before you say that this is the right school for my child.
Indeed.
Points that you have to tick. Every school here in the Netherlands has got a website. Every school here in the Netherlands has got a vision. Every school here has got a profile. Okay, there are Montessori schools. Yeah, as I said, there are Lear Plain Leader profile schools. There are schools for profiles from Germany. There are schools that profiles from, yeah, Mondrian. There are schools as called Urveta. These are all schools that have got different profiles.
Yeah.
When you sit there, I spoke of Muslim schools, but these are not the only schools in the Netherlands. By
Yeah.
the way, my sons don't even study in Muslim, profiled schools. They study in normal schools. Sometimes some year one studies in a Catholic school, but at least their focus is in a Catholic setting, and
Yeah.
then others are in settings that are sort of like Protestants, because originally I live in a Bible Belt. What we mean by Bible Belt section is where people are staunchly Catholics or staunchly religious. These people who don't work during weekends because they have to go to church. Okay. But then my kids go to those types of schools, because when I sat, I knew that, well, this is a type of school that where my child can go to, even if he's a Muslim, and they
Yeah.
can easily be who they are without being forced onto doing something that I don't feel comfortable. When Samuel says about speaks of what I thought all schools are not the same, this is what I'm just going to tell you. Look, we are into a we are in a country where even the education itself, I will give you this. Normally, I don't want to talk about it, but I'll say it because it's the truth. There are schools that have got 98% Dutch people population, and
Yeah.
getting into that school when you are an immigrant, the chances are like 0.001.
Yeah.
But the education, we say equal education opportunities here in
Yeah.
the Netherlands. But that is the reality.
Yeah.
But it does not mean that because there are these types of schools, you can't choose a right school for your child. But it starts with what you as a parent you find as the right profile for your child. Then you go on to asking your child that, okay, even if I've chosen this school, so okay, let me speak in two different perspectives. That you as a parent, you have a child who is 2 or 3, because education here starts at around 4 years. You as a child so as a parent who has got a child of starting 4 years, you have to make those choices. But then make out your outline, know what type of school you want your child to go to. They have Maybe you don't want your child to mix with a certain type of parents, students. Know that. You have to book that school in advance. For example, that if your child, if your wife is pregnant, assuming, because Mr. Muyingo, right, that here we also make reservations for schools.
Yeah.
Okay, when my wife is pregnant, I will make a reservation for where I want my child to go to, even 3 years, even before my wife gives birth, and I'll tell
Yeah.
them in the year like this, I would like my child to start, because that is how competitive good schools are
Yeah.
to start. So when you don't make all these choices, at the end of it, or when you wait until your child is 4 years old, then we
Yeah.
have the government makes choices for you.
Yeah.
Okay, because what there is what we call it's compulsory here for a child to go to school. The parent has no say in it. Okay,
Yeah.
so what we need is you have to go to school. So if a government tells you the child has to go to school, then you as a parent, you don't have any choice anymore, because all the schools you would have chosen, because you did not make the right plan,
Yeah.
they're already full.
Yeah.
And then you end up taking to a school that you don't like because
Yeah.
you didn't make the right choice. But
Indeed.
we need to start having a plan.
Indeed. And this is good, and it follows right well into the next question that Samuel has put in the follow up. That is it possible for a parent to change a school in case they find out that the school that the child is in is not the one that they have to be in to achieve their expectations?
That is one of the most difficult things in the Netherlands.
Yeah,
If you really don't have the right reasons, you make note.
yeah,
Yes. But then there are reasons as to why you can change. So for example, if you are going if you are shifting from one province to another, or from if your child is studying, for example, if I'm living in Ada and I'm going to Arnhem, then that
yeah,
is one reason that I can give, that no, I cannot no longer come to this school. I have to look for another school. That is possible, but not because you only say, well, I don't like this school, tomorrow I'm going to another school. Of
yeah,
late, we have started with a system of loting. You know what loting is?
yeah.
Where,
Maybe you can say something about that for the
yes.
audience.
So the loting means that uh, parents give only choices of where they want their kids to go. They no longer have a choice that, well, I need my child to go to this specific school. That applies to mostly secondary schools now. When a child finishes high school, sorry, primary school, what you need, they ask you two or three choices.
Yeah,
These choices are your own choices that you give, but it does not mean that these choices are the last ones. So
yeah,
we go into the loting form where a vote is taken. So they
uh,
put it in the loting, and then they start pulling out your name, a name of your child. So every school is allocated in that setting. So they
yeah,
say, okay, all kids are supposed to be shared equally to all schools.
yeah.
Yes.
Wow, this is so. I think the solution in this is to start early. For a parent, if you realize that there's a child coming in 9 months,
Yeah.
start with finding the right school that you want your child to go to. Otherwise, by the time the child comes, if you are thinking about starting to look for their school when they're 4, when they're supposed to start school when they're 5, then you are
Yes.
late.
Yes.
So, in that sense, I think it's very good and practical advice. So, there's another question here, and this one I think is directed to you from Edward Sentongo, that he doesn't see many teachers of African descent teaching in Dutch primary schools compared to other professions. Is it very difficult to become a teacher in the Netherlands?
For a Dutch primary school, yes. Yes, absolutely yes.
All right,
Because
that's clear.
of a
Yes,
language.
yeah,
Yes. You
indeed.
really have to be that good.
Yeah,
You have to, yes. You have to be what we call entaalknobel, in that is a connotation in Dutch, but you really have to be very good in the language,
yeah,
old languages, because it's very difficult to become so proficient
yeah,
in Dutch, because even if your vocabulary is too high, at least your pronunciations tend to, because we can never be natives.
yeah, indeed.
We can never be natives. So
Yeah,
you may be very good in Dutch, but then it still becomes, it's still your second language.
yeah,
It will never be the first language.
yeah. And the truth is that the first language always has an impact on how
Yeah.
you acquire the second language.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I
And
think,
the other thing that I would advise parents, what we do wrong when we're trying to build the vocabulary bank of our kids, is that we tend to misrepresent the setting of we speaking a wrong language, a wrong language at home, thinking that we're improving our kids to speak it.
yeah,
Please, I would advise all parents that if you know that you cannot help a child at home to improve a certain language, so in this case, for example, if it's Netherlands or if it is Dutch,
yeah,
please stay speaking your own language,
yeah,
because we tend to confuse these children of ours.
yeah,
They hear wrong pronunciations. Remember that the education system is planned in this way, that
yeah,
if the child cannot speak well the language, they tend to misfire. So please always stay with your language so that all other people can know that, okay, this is the language that I speak at home, and this is the language that my child speaks at school.
Yeah.
Okay,
Indeed.
because kids know how to separate all these languages.
Yeah.
But if you speak Dutch and then the pronunciations are not the right pronunciations at home, when the child goes to school, they hear different pronunciations, then they
Yeah.
become confused.
Indeed.
At the end of it all, they tend to copy how, because look, we are heroes, or we tend our kids tend to model from us
Yeah.
what we do at home. So they
Indeed.
tend to take all this at school. And when they take it at school, they tend to copy how we speak, how we react, how we see. So that is why we say that charity begins at home.
Indeed.
Kids
Most
will
definitely.
always copy all these kinds of behaviors, also our way of speech,
Yeah.
but not
Indeed.
knowing that if you stay in your language, I myself we communicate in only one language at my home, and that's
Yeah.
it. Because I don't want mixing. I know that I can speak Dutch, but I
Yeah.
don't use Dutch at my home.
Yeah.
Yes, I leave them, my kids, to communicate with themselves. They speak Dutch, but not with me, not with their
Yeah.
mother. No, because I know that for us, our role is to improve their L1, that is the first language.
Yeah.
And then when they go to school, they improve their L2.
Yeah.
So, whereby if I do speak the her in the right way or in the wrong way, they will just tell me, no, Papa, it's not her,
Yeah.
it's her. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I give them that opportunity to feel proud of
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that they can correct you. I've had it
Yeah.
in several family settings that the children were correcting their parents. You don't say it like that. You have to say it like
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But I have a question here that I think is very good from Samali, because we were speaking about children that are born here. But then she says, how can you make a good plan for a child who comes to the Netherlands at a later age?
At a later age, is that well, not being specific, but I would presume that that is an age where the child is already born. He's in Uganda.
Yeah, let's say 6, 7, already maybe like 9 years old. Let's say, Samali, can you maybe put in the comments the example of the age that you are referring to while we look at, for example, 9 years old?
A 9-year-old child, because look, we have already a system. There are two different settings. Experts tend to take their kids in an international school that is direct.
Yeah,
We, if you
she
become,
says 12 years old.
yeah, around 12. Okay. So when a child comes at 12, that is the last age where a child has to, we call it Burger class, moving from primary going to the secondary education system.
Yeah,
But then there is 1 year gap where this child has to first go for the the language
yeah.
class. So that is the Schacho
The
class. The
Scapo, yeah.
yes, the Schacho year. So
Yeah,
it depends what type of ability has a child got.
yeah,
Sometimes the child is too clever that they can even that he can spend 6 months. I've
yeah,
seen children that spend between 5 to 2 years at a house hall or in a language school. So please, if you to make a plan, you start knowing how the interval of how fast your child is, because that is going to help your child to be placed in a very good school.
yeah,
So when you are looking for a school, because the progress of your child at at a language education center,
yeah,
they see the progress of your child in steps
yeah,
through reading, as what we were talking about. Because if your child can read fast, can improve his reading fast, then the teacher acknowledge it that okay, probably if they start, because we all start at an equal level when we come in here, or when the students come in here, or when a child is here, they start at a lower level. But then how fast they build that bank, the vocabulary, the technical reading, the understanding of the vocabulary, the um all these types of steps help these students to know, or can help you you have to come first in contact with the
yeah.
teachers at the education center, the language center, and let them know what you want or what you think for your child, and then they will give you a right assessment.
Indeed.
Okay, that because of what we see here, I think your child belongs to this level. So you as a parent, if you know earlier where your child is in terms of reading, your child is in terms of arithmetic, where your child is, because the assessment is three: language and math. That is most of the time what we consider here. So if your math skills, or if the skills of your child in math are a little way higher, that has an advantage. Okay, but
Yeah.
if the math skills are a little bit lower, that also has another advantage in a negative way. But then it's possible, because there is also kids that have got what there is what we call dyscalculia. Dyscalculia is when you know your child that has difficulty in math concepts.
Yeah.
You've had, because majority of us know have that. We know that it's very difficult. A concept, math concept, you've had a lot of people saying, oh well, it's very, I can barely even calculate a 5 times 6 plus 7.
Yeah.
You understand? This
Yeah.
type of people are there,
Yeah.
but because they have their brains don't function in the way they're supposed to function.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. This is good. And there's another question here from Yvette. What's your
Yes.
take on Duolingo schools?
Duolingo schools, we call those in Dutch tweetalig onderwijs.
Yeah.
The tweetalig onderwijs or the Duolingo schools are good if you think your child, or you intend to go to different, or well, you are an expert, I would say in this case.
Yeah.
I would say it's okay. But still, if you think that okay, my child is clever enough to manage two languages at the highest proficiency level, then it's also good.
Indeed.
Yes.
Awesome.
But if you say that no, because look, we Dutch people tend to be um a little bit rigid in one way,
Yeah.
because you see that even at times when the language you use, the operating language at your workplace, tends to be English. But when you come in as a Dutch speaker, there is a way you kind of have, score more points.
Yeah.
Yet the language of use at your work is English,
It's English. Yeah.
for example. You see, so they tend to also look at the type of school where you came from. So
Yeah.
if it's a Duolingo or if it's an international school,
Yeah.
they look at it in a different setting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. This is good. This is good. And I think it starts a conversation that I think is very important for the future of this community, because I think education and the education of the children is very important. And sometimes we leave a lot of these things unsaid, and we just assume that uh, it's common knowledge or that everybody knows what they're supposed to do. But I think an interaction like this could be the start for someone to actually point their child into the right direction and set them up for the future that they are really entitled to have, that is bright. And I want to, first of all, I know we're still on this, but I just want to take this moment to acknowledge you, Hakim Waguma Musomesa. Thank you for being available to do this, because it's one thing to have the knowledge, to be in the field, to know what you have to say, but it's a completely different issue to be available to say this, to deliver this communication to the community on a Saturday evening. You could be doing anything else right now. So I don't take this lightly. And on behalf of the executive of the Ugandan community in the Netherlands and the entire community at large, we just want to say thank you to you personally, but also to the Career Advancement Network for bringing this to the community, because it is timely and it is needed.
Thank you very much. And what I would also add to that is that, look, I'm always available because I want us to progress together as a
And
community, to see that at least we can broaden our horizons in a right way.
Indeed.
Yes,
Most definitely. It's you reminded me of an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But
yes,
if you want to go far, you have to go together.
together. Yes,
And as a community, we are determined to go far as this is concerned. So together is always better. And
absolutely.
just like the Ugandan community, we say our strength is in unity
Yes.
because we have understood that together is better. And if anybody has any other comment or question, please drop it in the comment section and we can continue this conversation. I don't want to take away from Mr. Waguma's time already. We've already been at this coming to an hour and a half, but I really want to appreciate you. And so, for any parent that is there right now and they're wondering, okay, I've had all of this, but I'm still a bit confused. I don't know what the next steps are, the practical next steps that I can take for my child. Where can you point them right now?
With the practical next steps, it starts at school because
Yeah,
each and every child who is at school start a very open contact with the class teacher. That
yeah,
is, every school has got a class teacher. If the child is still in a primary setting,
yeah,
open up communication
yeah,
constantly on a daily basis with a mentor at a secondary setting.
yeah,
These types of communication are always important because that is the basic step that every parent has to start with.
yeah,
Yes. When I am informed, when a mentor tells you your child is this, you have all the signals because the mentor is always in contact with the parent where
yeah,
necessary. But don't let that mentor contact you telling you about your child of the aspects you don't know about. This
yeah,
is wrong. You are
yeah,
the one, you as a parent is the one, you both parents, if you are together, you should tell the mentor what they should know about your child, not a mentor to tell you about what you don't know about your child.
indeed. Most
These
definitely.
are the basic steps that we need to follow, and it starts with communication at school.
Yeah,
It does not matter. Look, you have to always go to these parents' meetings when you are called for. Don't wait for us to decide for you what to do for your child, and then you come in later. This is
yeah,
not helping. Because at the end of it all, you wait until you are being called into because you did not have communication, and you come back and you now start to blame because this blame game doesn't help anyone.
yeah,
It hurts the kid, it hurts the
indeed.
child. You know,
Yeah,
your child misses school. Please, you have parents need to know that this has really a negative effect on a child
yeah,
because at the end of it all, I always tell parents, you don't take charge of your kids. We take charge of them,
yeah.
and when we
Wow.
take charge of them, most of the time you lose them.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yes,
that's deep. So when the parent fails to take charge of the child, the school takes charge of that child, and
because then comes in the mentor, then comes in
yeah,
multiple institutions. We don't want If you don't want us to poke into your life, don't let us poke in your life.
yeah, indeed, indeed.
You let us
Wow.
poke into because it's only one signal. Your child
Yeah,
does not attend school. Your child comes late at school. Then we start
yeah,
asking. We have this background knowledge. What
yeah,
is the problem? What is the main cause? Does this
yeah,
child sleep okay? Why is
yeah,
it that this child is always late at school?
yeah,
What is the contact between the parent and the teacher? Okay,
yeah,
do they, okay, the child goes dirty at school. Does what is actually the right because all these things are written down. We detail
yeah,
everything. I don't
Yeah,
think that we all need this. We are a very small community which is still
yeah,
growing,
yeah,
but we have to learn from each other.
indeed.
We are here to fatten to kind of build a better future for our kids. But
Yeah,
then I don't think that that is the right procedure to kind of, build a better future if you don't take the initiative.
yeah,
Okay, the initiative starts with a parent, and then it spreads. But then if it doesn't, then you're not playing the right role. Don't let us play. Don't let us play the
yeah,
role for you, please. Yes.
yeah, indeed. Wow, this is good. That the parents have to be intentional in their role as parents and not let that place be taken. That if they're required to be at school as parents, they should be there, and they should
Yeah.
make sure that the children are at school when they're supposed to be at school, and uh, to take ownership as far as that is concerned.
Yes.
Indeed. Wow, this is good. And I just want to ask: are there any uh, just maybe a thought for you to think about? Is there something, some concluding remarks that you would like to share with our viewers? But before you do that, I just want to let you know that the next UCN Connect with the Career Advancement Network will be on the 18th of May 2024. And this one is going to be about the taxman. We're going to be talking about taxation, because that's a very important topic that most of us struggle with. We have to all pay taxes, but sometimes we don't understand what we have to do when and why. And so don't miss that session. If you want to be able to be on the good side of the taxman, just don't miss the session on taxation, because it's going to be very insightful, and we will be coming to you live here on the Career Advancement Network. Basically, the session will also be coming live where you're watching this from. So don't miss that on the 18th of May, and we will be making further communication. And I would just like to ask you, Musomesa, are there any concluding remarks that you would like to share with our viewers?
This goes to all parents, please. Take charge of your kids.
Yeah,
Make sure that if you seek help, if you're to seek help, seek it starting from the community where you live, because we are the people, we are the ones who understand the situation better as immigrants.
indeed.
We look ourselves into now, we have our own perspectives. Before you go further, if you are into the community, seek the right guidance starting from the community before you go, because sometimes we are koba zambogo, so
Yeah,
inakwejja feka zinakwejja zokka mu bunya. So at the end of it all, for me, I feel pity more than what a Dutch person would do,
yeah,
at least.
yeah,
Okay,
indeed.
that is the only remark that I'll give. I think it's understandable to all parents.
Indeed.
Yes.
Indeed. Thank you so much. And if there's a parent who has a question that I would like to have to continue this conversation, are you available for one-on-one discussions, Father, to just get a
Yes.
clear path mapped out for their child from you?
Yes, absolutely. I'm available for anyone who has a question, for anyone who needs guidance. But then I'm reachable weekdays in the evenings. So I
Yeah,
have a window of around 2 hours that is
yeah,
starting from 4 to 6. So
yeah,
weekdays from 4 to 6, that is the only time when I'm available. And then
yeah,
weekends, yeah, someone can try, which is okay, Saturdays, but mostly weekdays because I'm extremely busy because I don't
and
only carry out tasks in class, I also have outside class tasks,
and then
you know. So that is
most definitely.
how busy I am. But anyway, I'm
And,
available. Yes.
and what's the best way for someone to reach you?
I have my number, but then also via Khan, I think I can be easily reachable because all my contacts are at the website,
Yeah,
Khan.
very well.
Yes, so it's
And
possible
this
that
is
someone can get directly in contact with me.
indeed.
So
So
maybe
if
you
anybody
can
would
also
like to have more information, please go to Career Advancement Network, can256.nl,
put an L. Yeah.
uh, and you should be able to get more information as far as reaching out to Mr. Hakim Waguma and the other activities that are going on within the Career Advancement Network. And with that, we just want to say thank you for your uh, attendance and participation. I really want to acknowledge all of you that have commented, that have sent in questions, because you have made this what it was. If we prepared it and you didn't show up, it would have all been for nothing. So I just want to take this moment to acknowledge all of you, each and every one, from the first comment that came through that said Amsterdam to the very last one that it was Nadia who commented first, and she said that she was in Amsterdam because I asked for people to confirm where they were watching from. And then to the last comment, which was from Samali, who was responding that her child is 12 years old. So with that, I just want to say thank you to all of you, and tune in on the
Hey,
next session about taxation, and we will be able to build the community that we can all be proud of. And with that, I just want to leave this here. Let me just put the website in here. It's can256.nl, www.can256.nl, and you can be able to connect. And Nakakawa Harid also says, thank you, Hakim.
you're welcome.
So with that, I just want to leave that here and say thank you so much, everyone. Bye bye, and God
Okay.
bless you.
Bye bye.